The map selection, and we've got Oregon, Border, and Kafe in this 9-map pool. Fresh, your thoughts?
Yeah, so my big interest here was the map that Falcons were going to go with in terms of the preference for BDS. Were they going to go with a high preference map for Falcons, because obviously there's not a lot of data behind that as to their preferences, or were they going to go for a low preference map in BDS? I think they've probably done both. Oregon's the 7th preference map for BDS, and then BDS, they picked Border back in. They've been saving this map inside of EUL for this event specifically.
I would say that especially in this event, both of the teams are focusing on showing new stuff, because besides everything that's happening in here, it's a lot of work that they use these maps right now to have advantage between these teams. We, for example, didn't see Kafe from Falcons in a while, and the same for Oregon from BDS. So, in my opinion, it will be a great match, considering that they will bring this new stuff.
And knowing that BDS start off on the defense here in Oregon, of course, Falcons pick the map, the other team gets to pick the starting side. How do things fare for Falcons?
It's going to be kind of difficult for Falcons to break down. Obviously, with Oregon, you've got the 2 primary bomb sites. You've got the laundry supply room and then kid storms. Particularly that laundry supply room will be so hard to break down for Falcons, because it is for every single team, right? So BDS there, it's not going to be like the Wild game, for example, where Wild can just start getting on a roll. BDS will find defensive rounds, even if there is a bit of an upset. So for Falcons, on the attack particularly, it's easing yourself in, making sure you pick up the 2 tertiary sites, maybe another primary site. A 3-3 attack split would be great for them.
Most of it, I would say that this map, Oregon, will be showed. Who will win this match by gathering the balcony on the first kitchen defense. Once someone can get to win this defense, this one will be the one to win the match, because it's the most difficult defense in the map.
Yep.
Trying to break that kitchen side. We've seen stage be like a regular site that teams are going to, and some also falter when it comes to it. Hey, how do we breach that, big tower and walk in there without dealing with the defense?
What I will say is BDS are more than competent on this map. Through probably 2 years of pro play, they were feared in terms of this map. It has dropped off their preference, but they were feared. There's a spot called Shaiko Spot on this map, right? And he's playing in it. That shows you how good they are at previously playing this map. So any map for BDS, they play every single one of them. So
Shaiko's got to show up in this game, like you're saying, Fresh. But we've seen Renshiro also stepping into that hot seat and playing incredibly well with the squad twister.
Yeah, I would say that actually the most important player to show up today is Alams. He's a key player for BDS.
Yeah.
When they're able to win in the match, Alams is the guy that don't let them lose. So if Shaiko and Renshiro are playing good, that's okay. It's fair enough. But when Alams shows up, that shows that BDS can win every game that they had.
The way I always think about BDS is, I always thought of them as a team, as everybody shows up and does their part, and like 20% more. The way they've been doing recently is like, not everyone's been playing at about 80%. So, you're looking for Lems particularly, even Brede. All we do is praise Brede, but he's had a very quiet stage, and similar with Rafale as well, ever since SI. So we're looking for everyone to just put in their 100% performance for this team, and they will go deep into this tournament.
What operator bans do you think we'd see in this twister?
Actually, I would say that maybe a Maverick ban, just like we did before with BDS on Oregon. If Falcons is trying to get into this map, this is probably because they have a plan for it. So I would say that Maverick to try to break the roster of the BDS and try to bring them to other stuff that they are used to. So I would say Maverick and maybe Mira to not have any trouble to go into the laundry.
Would you agree with that?
I'd agree. I think they're always good bans. Obviously, if you ban away the Maverick, it depends what BDS ban, but you might get forced into a Kaid ban if they go for Thatcher as well, just so that you can open up the hatches. Because, obviously, if you're playing without a Maverick and a Thatcher and Kaid's open, there's no way you're opening up the meeting hatch. Yeah. So your bans are a little bit determined, particularly on the defense on Oregon, by what the 2 teams ban on the attack, because obviously it's the 2 attacker bans coming out first. But BDS and Falcons, to an extent, both of these teams will have scrimmed and played with every scenario of those bans open and available, so they'll know what to do.
Well, since I have 2 coaches here with me, or at least a coach and an ex-coach here on the desk, I really want to ask you a bit about strategy, because BDS are known for having consistent strategy, and they're starting off on the defense, which means that they can actually gather up a big advantage before going to the second half. I want to ask you, Twister, how do you see this BDS build-up happening in terms of setup? And then how would you break it if you were Falcon?
I would say that BDS breakup, could happen when you go into that meeting kitchen and defense, because as the weakest bomb sites that you have, probably this will be the plan to try to bring them to that one and try to figure out how you can use Rafale breakup. Because I think that one of the most consistent players that usually is not known by someone is Rafale, because his role in the team is a very good one, and it's very useful for all the rest of the team. If he's not playing that good Siege, then you can break BDS. That's what we did back there in that side. We tried to look into Rafale, break him up, and maybe generate a hole in the team and to break the whole tactic from them.
Yeah, he's that kind of unsung hero where he doesn't get talked about a lot. You know, we talk about Shaco, we talk about Bride, we go on to talk about Elems as the IGL, and obviously when Shiro pops up and Rafale's kind of just there, and even in his interview he said, you know, Shaco go kill, Bride go clutch. So, you know, if you can get rid of him, he is a crucial part, even though we don't talk about him.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for that insight. Our match is ready, so how about we pull up our casters and say hello to them before we get started with our matchup. Hello, it's Blue and X again, and it's BDS going up against Falcons. How are you feeling for this one?
It's going to be an interesting one, as obviously we have not seen the Falcons be able to make their way onto an international stage, especially of this caliber just yet. So it's going to be their first foray into that, and we'll have to wait and see, as obviously BDS, still a strong contender inside of the European region, is going to look to try and shut them down quite quickly. But obviously the Falcons have their own strengths that they'll be looking to exercise inside of this series. X is with me once again. What do you make of this matchup as we're getting ready to get started with the first map?
I'm really looking forward to this. I think after our first match of the day, can we really go in with any real clear ideas of what's going to happen now? We've got Falcons versus BDS. Falcons, a team that I know that all of us are really looking forward to learning more about and figuring out just how these guys play, what makes them tick, who's the one to really look out for. And then on the flip side, you've got BDS. Once upon a time, the pride of EU, but always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They have always struggled at the latter point inside of tournaments, and there isn't really much of a latter point in this tournament, Blue. There isn't a lot of time for them to really get themselves going, so I'm expecting them to come straight out of the gate pretty hot, especially given the kill MVP, the kill prize that we've got on offer here. Anyone that's familiar with BDS, anyone that's familiar with Shaco, regardless of where they finish, Shaco ends up with a nutty amount of kills.
Yep, definitely going to be the case. So we'll certainly be hunting for that kill leader reward, the bounty we've put onto it alongside of the MVP victory too. Some of the bands starting to roll out. No surprises really so far, at least with regards to Oregon. Ying still quintessential for the basement assault, so she is quite commonly banned out for that reason. Finka as well, still prolific inside of this meta right now, so makes sense to remove her in nearly all scenarios, but obviously turns into a little bit of a self-handicap if your team also relies on that. Away from that, Mirror gets knocked out on the first defensive side. That'll round out both of Falcons' bans, leaving the last one in the hands of BDS. Where do they want to take this? We'll find out in just a second.
I really, really love the desk, by the way. Twister, fantastic. Always been a big fan. Yeah. Great to see him on the desk. Obviously, Fresh is all right as well, but I quite like how this has gone just entirely opposite from what they were expecting. They were talking about Thatcher bans, Maverick bans, Mirror ban. Fair enough, we did get it. An Arcade ban potentially. And look at what we've ended up with. A Ying Finka ban. This is like, right, we're just going to take any sort of structure, throw that by the wayside. We're going to ban all the crazy ops. We don't want anything to do with that. We'll remove the Mirror, sure, because that's a bit of a pain. And then the Clash getting rounded out there as well. I think we're just hitting a quick pause while the players get themselves all set up. But moving in onto this one, it's a good map for BDS, at least historically it has been. If you've got a spot on the map that is named after you, it's usually because you did something pretty mental there.
It's also generally just going to be kind of a home turf for a lot of teams. Oregon has tended to be a map that we've seen play out to a huge extremity inside of comp for years on years on years now, even through the old version of it coming back to now. So that tends to be a base that a lot of teams will use as a starting point. So hopefully this will also be the case for the Falcons. Like we talked about before, though, already losing Finka is going to make at least one element of this basement assault a little bit more difficult, but they already have plans to work their way around. Interesting lineup from them here, but very much the expected one to assault the lower floor site as we take a look at the first lineup from the Falcons.
BDS going to start things off on the defense here, not wasting any time, getting themselves straight down into laundry. for anyone unfamiliar with the way that Oregon plays out, it is typically seen as one of the sites, or one of the maps, should I say, that the defenders have the most opportunity on. And you would very much expect defenders to be coming away with a lion's share of the rounds here. Going down to the basement is usually a good starting point. Hitting us with a little bit of a roam, we've got a Lems out there, just done a little bit of a drone hunt. Does miss that one just outside of the drone, but it's going to be playing on that Malusi. So once those Banshees are placed, he is free to do basically whatever he wants, and it seems like he wants to challenge this early roam clear.
Talking earlier about how the defenders generally have a lot of opportunity. For this site, it's going to be a little bit more limited unless you want to risk yourself on the first floor. Try to go for some more aggressive swings. Occasionally, we'll have the hold over by the freezer stairs and occasionally cross the hall into security, too. You can even see a little bit of that broiling up from BDS by the freezer stairs specifically, as one player is prepared for the challenge here, but is more than likely going to lose that confidence. Lems, by the way, now pulling back after being spotted out by that drone further down yellow.
And there's no real need to roam too far. Lems has done a good job there. He's got rid of a couple of drones. He's held a little bit of ground for the time being. And a couple of nades have been burnt on the side of Falcons. So very much a par for the course at the moment. We've got Renshiro on the back stairs. He's going to be keeping an eye on that tier 1 landing area in and around the big tower. And I mean, where would Shaiko be if he wasn't in his spot, right?
Absolutely the case. So Shaiko going to be patiently waiting for the inside of his own position, and we'll wait and see now if he's going to be able to make a strike from it. The Falcons definitely building themselves up. You can see at least one of their players looking to pop open the hatch leading down into electrical, but Mad Skills at least has been called away from that for now. They want to focus up on the laundry hatch for the time being instead. So we see JLad a little bit more quickly be able to deal with the hatch sitting directly above E, just with those X-Kairos. Speed things up a little bit here as Falcons do need to start worrying about how they're going to get themselves into the basement. Not going to be stressed for time just yet, but wasting more that the next 30 seconds or so could start to show a bit of a problem for the Falcons as they'll more than likely attempt to work their way down.
The Falcons have done a great job here. They've got a couple of hatches open. They've taken really good map control. It's not cost them anything apart from a handful of drones, and they've still got some of those drones left to figure out where these defenders are going to be in the final execute. We've got a nice push coming through Freezer. We've got a little bit of presence on those back stairs. Rafal actually going to be the first player to get downed out here. Shaiko turning his attention toward those tower stairs as well as the crossfires start to come in. He's going to pick up the first confirmed kill in this round.
A heavy cost, at least with regards to Rafal's own HP. He'll be down fairly low, more than likely going to have to keep himself back after that, but at the moment, it's just a shutdown from BDS. 3 kills, 0 responses. Finally, we're going to see Koto's able to hold his own against Shaiko, knocks him out, but he's not even fully down the stairs just yet. Doesn't have a free way to work himself into it either. He's got up to 2 different members of BDS looking to knock him out, and Renshiro will seal the deal, leaving it all on Mad Skills, who won't be able to maintain either. Rafal mops up shop here and locks in the first round for BDS.
BDS holding fast there inside of the site, playing in and around those power positions that we all know and love. Well, you at least love them if you are on the defending side of things. Falcons just struggling to break through there. It was a fantastic push. They had coordination from either side. They had a bit of presence in bunker, backstairs was covered, and freezer. But none of the pushes really worked out. You only need one of them to really come through, and then you can really start to apply a little bit of pressure there. A lot of gunfights go in the favor of BDS. Successful in round number 1, but switching things up now onto that top floor.
BDS don't necessarily need to do anything special to close it out there either, just playing directly into their strategy, wasting out that first 2 minutes, basically just trying to slow down the Falcons' hatch openings as much as possible. Unsuccessful in that, but they don't lose anything from it either, so nothing majorly lost as they seem to be well prepared for the actual execute. Once Falcons had built up the confidence to go for it and had no problem shutting it down from that point onward. It's up to the Falcons now to change up their own fate as BDS will be moving onwards to the upstairs dorm hold.
Double hard breach set up here from Falcons, so you would expect them to go through that big tower area as well, use the Maverick to open up in through attic, and then use the thermite for the more traditional breach in through games. Everyone there discovering one of Shaiko's cameras inside of the lampshade. It's certainly going to be featured in a couple of ranked games, I am sure, but Valkyrie on this map, loads of information opportunity. You can really get those cameras out there, and it gives you that little bit of an edge, especially if you know you're going to be taking some more aggressive gunfights in the later part of the round. JLad getting himself into position now, just going to drone out that master bedroom area before he likely moves on through and tries to thermite open that wall.
May end up seeing that camera that was placed behind the lampshade become fairly useful for BDS here, but meanwhile, Alem's just going to go straight for it. No support on the position from Joker, so Alems will be able to knock him directly out. Not even a chance for a response there for the Falcons. BDS will have the 5v4 locked in as a result of that.
No real potential to refrag that one either. Alem's using Oryx's dash ability there fantastically, getting himself out and back in. And then more than... The interesting part about that for me, really, Blue, was the fact that he used the burst once he was back in the building because he wanted to get away from the scene of the crime as quickly as possible. It wasn't about getting out quickly, it was about getting safe quicker. The wall is going to be open. No attempt to impact breach from below, at least not a successful one. But Alem's is still a threat down here.
Alems potentially can line up a very critical flank in the late round here if we see the remaining members of the Falcons try to haphazardly push themselves in both through the Arsenal as well as master bedroom routes they seem to be approaching right now. Case sitting in the hands of JLad, and he's already moved himself further into the depths of that master bedroom area, soon to be supported by a second teammate here. This is the problem. Already losing 2 players early on. You really need these additional player counts to be able to work your way in and trade your way into holding this site, especially because they're pushing in from the master side instead of trying to work over towards big window, where you would really only need that support working itself up through white to at least make a bid for the play. But right now, Falcons are truly struggling to get that entry that will be necessary to at least allow them in. O'Kills nearly manages to get it for himself here, but is pressed back, taking a lot of damage in the process. And Kotos as well has been downed outright. Renshiro will be able to finish off Kotos now, knocking him down, leaving it all on to JLad and O'Kills.
Shaco there going to fall as well as Rafal eventually gets traded out, but Renshiro is there to pick up those pieces. He's doing a lot of damage on that spear, I'll be honest with you. It's really hitting some heavy shots there. You could see in those final few seconds as well, there was a little bit of uncertainty as to just where am I getting spotted from. I'm getting spotted here. I'm turning around to check the room. The thermite was there, like couldn't find the black eye camera immediately. The Valkyrie had placed inside of the lampshade a little bit earlier on, so maybe that one will live to fight another round. BDS successful here inside of round number 2.
Things looking promising for BDS as they get themselves off to an assured start. 2 very straightforward rounds, at least as far as they're concerned, locked in. And now moving downstairs here into the meeting room hold, which generally is the go-to side of the remaining 2. This is one of those maps where we have a rare shared site. As obviously the kitchen would come into play had they chosen the other option here to go over towards cafeteria, but BDS not favoring it. That other site hold can get a little bit claustrophobic for a lot of defensive lineups, so they'll go over here towards meeting room instead, where you've got a little bit more room to breathe, spread yourself out, and maintain secondary positions on the defense if you get pushed out of your initial position.
It's always a little bit of personal preference between the teams, and I think certainly at the start of Oregon it was, it was all about the kitchen side of things, the kitchen dining side of things, but now we've come into the new meta of meeting is really the way to go. The hatch play that you can get away with, obviously you've got attic above you with a hatch, you've got a hatch below into electrical box, you've got things like C4s, you can really start to play around that. BDS are going to be bringing 2 this round on Shaiko and Renshiro, so they're going to look to try and make use of that. And something that we've seen for the first time this game at least is going to be the Azami. Val is going to be bringing that to try and create some of those Kiba barriers and just make things a little bit more unpredictable when you're swinging those corners as an attacker.
So Falcons off to the usual start. Once again, quick clearance of the small tower area. Not going to see much resistance come in for BDS. They will as well pop open the top down just to make sure there's no one trying to hold a more aggressive angle from BDS further out towards cafeteria. Aside from that, though, not a whole lot Kotos is going to be able to gain here on the Ash, so he will need to move himself away from this, and the rest of the Falcons will push ever forward here from the yellow side to start getting some pressure in against the kitchen side defense, interestingly enough, of BDS. Generally speaking, we tend to see teams attack this from the big tower end of it, using that backstage wall as a bit of a jumping off point to work yourself into a site. For some teams, though, it tends to be a little bit too one-dimensional, so curious to see how Falcons will now try to work things, as they obviously are prioritizing the kitchen side currently.
Struggling to get past that mute jammer, as we can see that JLad is just having a little bit of problem there. With the nades coming through now in an attempt to try and clear that utility, and the Selma will detonate accordingly. A couple of nice cameras here, one for Shaiko potentially to peek onto that main area with. Got a great access onto that double door and gets a little bit of a glimpse as to what's going on just at the entrance to garage there as well. Got a nice camera that's backing Renshiro up. So spending quite a bit of time on the cameras here, just gathering that information. Really not looking to give too much away. Rafal gets away with it there as he places one of the keeper barricades onto the window. Costs him a little bit of HP, but he does manage to keep his life. This makes it increasingly more difficult now to try and peek through, and with no breaching rounds left, you're left with nothing but your fists.
Thankfully, those are going to chain together, so only needs to knock out really one of those barricades to be able to get both of them out. But unfortunate, fortune has struck the Falcons yet again here, as we are going to see BDS claim the initial kill of the round for the third time in a row. Looking to try and replicate it into a second kill, just like we saw back on round number 2 as well. They've already gotten a little bit of damage onto Kotsos here. You can see the nades being thrown in from below to try to knock out Rafal, but they're just not landing in the correct position. O-Kills continuing his own consistency here, finds a pickup from the big window, but is going to be unable to carry it further than that. Rafal shuts it down, is ready for the challenge once again from the kid stairs as well. So that'll send away some of the pressure from the Falcons. O-Kills has been knocked into a down state, leading it all into JLAT, and now just Mad Skill's hands here. BDS with strong control over their third site, looking to lock in the third victory as well here, and should be able to do things. Mad Skill's just one bullet away from his own knockout. Also important to note he needs to get this case down to the ground at some point in the next 5 seconds. Just not going to have enough room to work it. Sitting back here trying to negotiate as many kills as possible to pad the stats a bit, but Rafal will shut it down instead, and BDS get the perfect rotation to start out this map.
Not a bad way to start things off if you are a BDS fan or a BDS player indeed. 3 clean rounds there on each of the most prominent sites here on Oregon. Now all it is a rinse and repeat. More importantly, it's an opportunity for the Falcons to say, right, we've seen yourselves, we know exactly what you're going to do. How are we going to approach this differently? Be a good time to use tactical timeout to maybe discuss that and just to really go over how you're now going to approach attacking onto that basement, how you're going to approach attacking onto that top floor on the next rotation round. Because one of the big problems that we've seen up until this point really has been the time. The time has been something that Falcons have really struggled with.
We're gonna head back in game, folks, and see how exactly the Falcons will look to innovate. No tactical pause, though. Maybe wanting to save that for a little bit later on into this map. Maybe for when things are starting to look a little bit more desperate, but we'll have to see here. Could be coming up after this round as well. Maybe they feel they already have a correction strategy to be able to make up for the mistakes back on round number 1. And maybe if things don't go well here, that's when we'll end up seeing the pause from them to try and course correct when they would have to go for dorms a second time. We'll hold our breath and wait to see exactly what the Falcons will throw out in this round, because we are going to see that fairly standard lineup for attacking it. Obviously, we'll see Kotos bring a little bit of surprise in the Nook, and we'll have to wait and see what exactly he'll be cooking up with that operator.
Nook's really skyrocketed in terms of popularity. Obviously, with Finkerband, you kind of have to look toward other options. And a Finkerband often forces a Nook, and a Nook can be as big a problem. Sure, you've not got an LMG, but you're a little bit of a nightmare. You've still got 2 grenades, you're quite quick, you can evade cameras, you're pretty quiet. You've got all the things that really are big ticks in a box, if you will, when you're looking at an operator to select. Looks as though we're going to see a bit more of a direct approach here in onto that bunker area. Shaiko has got himself into a bit of trouble here as he knows that somebody's likely going to be outside there in and around one of the barrels, but an opening exchange goes BDS's way once again. This time, however, immediately traded.
Much better hold this time from the Falcons. JLAT will be his first kill of the game as well. Finally seeing him get onto the board. As far as the rest of the Falcons are concerned, so it's a consistent push here, looking to bleed out the rest of the presence from BDS, which is quite prominent, especially here towards Big Tower. They definitely are pulling no punches this time with regard to in their roam game, looking to shut down any shenanigans that the Falcons look to get up to, especially when it comes to applying pressure to this backstairs push, which was the centerpiece of their play as they tried to work their way into the basement back and around number 1. For the Falcons, though, things continue to build up as they have taken control of the front side of the building. Still need to transition through meeting and bleed out Renshiro, as well as the supporting player's position that you can see over there in the corner from Alems.
Renshiro not looking to move all too much here, as we're seeing a little bit of a movement from this Nook, maybe looking to try and more directly approach the player that's playing those back stairs. We do still have a Lems hanging around inside of Tower as well, and could have maybe picked himself up a freebie there, but gets taken out from the crossfire. Great bit of play there from Falcons, finding themselves 2 kills and gaining themselves a man count advantage for the first time in this series. They've got loads of time left to work with here. C4 up through the hatch will be successful off the back of a little bit of information, no doubt. You've still got the small matter of dealing with Shaiko and Bride. Bride still 2 of those toxic canisters in hand, so he can start to try and deter some of this attacking push. J-Lad going to drop the hatch diffuser in hand. He's dropping in solo, and he's left the case cold on the ground. Shaiko, he finds himself 3. Can he pick up the final kill? It's all gone so terribly wrong. Falcons, they had that advantage, and they've slowly given it away one at a time. Now with 30 seconds left and the case cold, it's going to be very difficult here for Kotos to really get anything going. Shaiko swings, gets the visual, but can't land the finishing blow. Still, he has Bride as backup playing inside of the elbow. ADS saves his life, and Shaiko hits the swing. 4 kills on the round.
Great save from Shaiko, as well as the rest of BDS that was still alive at that point in the round here. Good follow-up as well from the Falcons, making much better control, especially of the early and mid portions of the round, able to lock out that aggressive positioning, especially over there towards Big Tower that we were seeing from BDS. But unfortunately, the follow-through to actually get downstairs, get into the basement, that's where things really fell apart for the play from the Falcons. They're not expecting as much aggressive resistance to the backstairs push. And as well here, Shaiko removing what I believe was the intel gain in 0 kills. He was sitting on drone when that Nitro was taking him out, so that removed the intel game for them, making them a little bit less sure of themselves as they work their way back down through those back stairs, and of course leaving the window of opportunity open for the frags to come out, mainly from Shaiko there.
A round that certainly could have gone the way of the Falcons. They got very close inside of that one, and if it hadn't been for the ability on BDS for players to clutch up, could have been a very different story. That being said, it's still a clean 4 rounds in a row here as we move back upstairs to the top floor for the second time. BDS looking to make those back-to-back defensive side rotations and really pile that pressure on quite early inside of the series. I'm a little bit worried, Blue, I'll be honest with you. I've spotted something that's come to my attention. We're seeing a little bit of an Amaru come through. Is that the answer?
Certainly find out, as it's going to give you a much greater capability to leap into the site quite literally when it comes to the case of Mad Skills. Also is going to be a little bit of a backup here when it comes to the hard breach department in the event that J-Lad finds himself picked off early. We do have the can openers in the pocket of Mad Skills potentially help out in that department. We've seen, of course, the Amaru brought in a few other times as well, most notably by Wild in our previous match, but it wasn't always for the Gara hook. I will submit that it's more than likely for the Gara hook in this specific site, but oftentimes it just comes down to the fact that it's a comfort pick with the G8 scope as well, making that obviously a little bit of a bolstered reason to pick up this operator and bring them into the fold. And then, yeah, you have the Gara hook if it becomes relevant, but that's more of a secondary thing, much like we kind of see with like Alibi on the defense.
Yeah, you get the can opens as well, so you can argue there's a bit of utility to be found there. And it's not always about using the Gara hook at the first opportunity. That's often what just leads to disaster. Often there's times where you can gain, you know, nice little rotations with it. You can hop yourself outside and get back in very quickly if the opportunity presents itself. And for at least the meantime, Mad Skills hasn't got himself into harm's way too much just yet. Just hanging out on the armory rappel, keeping a little bit of a cross there and allowing his team to make a little bit of progress. That progress is going to be opening up the main breach.
Nitro goes out, the J-Lad. Oh, the timing is so unfortunate for J-Lad. Thought he was going to be secure, started to move out a bit prematurely as the C4 was blowing up, and unfortunately left himself open in the doorway to the explosion of that. Had he waited behind it for just a split second, more than likely would have dodged all the damage from that Nitro. Good news is we do have the backup hard breach once again coming in from the Amaru. More than likely not going to be all that much needed at this point in the round, but still missing a player here once again is not going to be the recipe for success for the Falcons. We'll have to see how they try to make up for the 4v5, as at least O-Kills finds an open window, works himself forward, and knocks Renshiro directly out, but unfortunately won't be able to keep pushing into that. Has to fall back to pick up the case, and in that window of opportunity, Shaiko will be able to frag things back for BDS.
Great player to remove in Renshiro as well, but these C4s are dishing out so much damage. That's 2 for 2 on the round. Shaiko eventually gets a little bit too over-aggressive, and O-Kills is there to take him out, picking up his second. Still keeping things competitive here as he hops on in, tanks a bit of damage on the Toxic Babe, and gets himself into a bit of an engagement as well. Alem's chilling at the top of these white stairs now, has a very important part to play, holding that cross. O-Kills has recovered the diffuser, but is he going to be given the time and the space to get this case on the ground? Alem's going to hit him with the swing as Kotos finds one onto Alems, but it is a fraction of a second too late. BDS going to be there for that final kill. So Bride going to be there for that final kill for BDS to lock things up. Bride, nice of you to join us on the scoreboard there. Nice impact kill just when BDS need it.
BDS, unfortunately, again, with just far too much control over the interior portion of the site, and Falcons starting out as well, we had again from a player down, really just did not have the player power or the correct strategy to try to bleed out any of those those individual members from BDS. They had no reason to panic. Utility wasn't connecting from the attacking side. Obviously, we'll see here on the replays from the defense. It was working out swimmingly. 2 for 2 on Nitro Cells that round as well. It's not even needing to directly contest against a lot of the members of the Falcons to knock them out. Leaves them struggling to find entries that they can realistically work into a site take.
Makes things very difficult when you're coming up against these Nitros and you've not really got too much of an option. Nitros are such a devastating tool. We talk so often about how good nades are for the attackers. And yeah, nades are great. You get a few more nades than you get Nitros as well, so that's maybe what gives them the edge. But Nitros are just so devastating, especially when you just hear that rip and you see it flying towards you, just nothing you can do about it. It really is a little bit of the freebie on occasion, especially if time is on the defender's side.
Attackers are moving out to locate
Shaping up here for a clean sweep from BDS as they go back down into kitchen and meeting and look to try and make this a successful 6 rounds in a row on the defense. We did see a bit of a top floor clear come out last time from Falcons when attacking onto this site. But there was a little bit of everything. We saw a little bit of a scuffle at those rear stage stairs. There was a bit of a push in through meeting, and we got run-outs to boot as well. I don't suppose that BDS are going to continue on this run-out train, especially given the way that the rounds have been going for them so far. But can't count out that early aggression.
Saw Mad Skills already looking to work his way in and is going to do so now here at Arsenal. Takes control for himself and actually has a pretty open pathway to lead himself through most of the second floor. That a zombie barricade will be standing in the way, though. That's the saving grace for a fall right now that he has that in path of this clear from the Falcons and specifically Mad Skills here. Koto's having the hold on the other side of this. Is going to try to put pressure back onto the kids' hold, but again, as the zombie barricades blocking things off. Too much of a nuisance at the moment for this clear. The Falcons is going to have to be the first one to strike and move themselves forward. Just when are we going to see it? Mad Skills, though, catching that peek from Renshiro over at Big Tower. Strikes first this time for the Falcons. A very much needed kill for this team as they have struggled to come back from these 4v5 deficits. Now let's hopefully give the team a little bit more confidence to continue pushing forward as they can afford to lose that extra player here now.
Mad Skills living up to his name there. That was a great shot all the way down highway. We're going to see some nades get thrown out now as well, but Lem's holding a very skinny angle and takes out Joker there. That DMR dishing out just so much damage. A couple of body shots is all it takes. Alems, look at the pressure he's coming under. Manages to find himself down onto Mad Skills. His teammate is going to finish that one off. Peeks onto the window. Let's go, Alems. He's racking him up for free. Jalen eventually shuts him down, but he's greeted with the laser gate. Not really going to be able to transition through that too easily. At least we're not taking a chunk of damage. O'Kills, he's going to be inside of Zulu downstairs. Maybe looking to put a challenge in onto meet him, but it looks as though there's a little bit of a lack of information here. Only 1 drone available for O'Kills alive. Still a couple out on the map, but where they are remains to be seen. They might not be all too useful. Patience will pay off, though, for J-Lad as he levels things up into a 2v2.
Great stuff from the Falcons, playing into that extra time back that they've had on this round as well. But now comes the hard part of this push. They've been limited on attacker utility. They still should have enough to be able to work past this laser gate. O'Kills will not. But if J-Lad's somewhere nearby, he might be able to come in and assist. There's still 1 Selma sitting in his pocket. He can chuck that through. Nitro out from Shaiko, though, and it catches J-Lad, leaving O'Kills without a choice. He tries to rush through the laser gate, only to run directly into one of the members of BDS, who knocks him out. And BDS locks in the perfect half at 6-0.
Look at Brede as well. We sing Brede's praises so often. I love gassing up a support player. It's 2 rounds in a row now. He's picked up the last kill with the shotgun. And it must be horrible because all he does is just stay alive. All of his team are doing this crazy stuff around him and he's just alive with the shotgun and he's just like, yeah, I'll get the last kill. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry about me.
I'll just clean up.
I'll just clean up. Yeah, I'm just there with like dustpan and brush sort of thing. Unbelievable stuff. Obviously, we've got Shaiko there. Another round, another Nitro cell kill. Those Valkyrie cameras and the information exchange clearly working out. But again, another round that the Falcons were pretty close to. Really touch and go stuff that.
There is definitely improvements being made to the Falcons, even on a round-by-round basis.
Yeah.
The problem is just too little in terms of improvements here. It's all coming in a little bit too late at the end of the day. BDS still able to secure the win in every single one of these close scenarios. That is going to hurt the morale just a little bit here of the Falcons. But obviously, it's a best of 3, so they still have the hopes of maps 2 and potentially 3 if they're going to be able to continue improving on their own game and rebound. Of course, we also still have the second half to play into here. We have seen very one-sided teams that they really switch on when they move to the other side. So don't count the Falcons out of this one just yet. Obviously, a massive amount of pressure thrusted against them, however. They will now have to be perfect from this point forward.
I mean, if there's a map to do it on, Oregon's not a bad place to start for 6 rounds in a row on the defense. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen it, let's be honest. This can be a little bit of a crazy map, but you do mention there about the pressure and how much that occasion really starts to get to you when you cannot afford to make a single mistake. And that's when BDS will choose their time to strike. Renshi's going to opt for the fuse this time, which is a very choice pick. They obviously know they're going to be attacking downstairs, so could be looking to do something a little bit fruity with that, but it looks as though it's going to be a pretty concise push in through bunker. There's going to be a very important gunfight to win, though. You can't afford to give up the elbow that quickly. The nade comes through, it's going to dish the damage, and the swing will follow. A couple of kills are going to trade off 1 for 1, as we are going to see a 4 versus 4 now. Greedy, he's going to be next one through, but O-Kills is there to reply. C4 of his own, but it won't land, unfortunately. The kills do continue to fly, though. There's been no strategy here at all from BDS. They have just been pushing headlong into everything. 2 versus 2 now as the kills continue to trade. Rafal picking up one. Can he grab the second? Going to look to try and flash out the player just behind the pillar and maybe try and recompose himself a little bit. There's still loads of utility here and there's still tons of time.
Once again, the Falcons able to work themselves into this, but BDS definitely in an advantageous position given the fact that they have that extra time bank, that extra patience to play into. Falcons get a little bit nervous, starting to step out, but no, it's not nervousness, it's confidence from O-Kills as he knocks out Renshiro, leaving it all on Rafal, who is unfortunately just not going to have in this fight to move himself into it. He tries to push himself out, gets knocked down, and finally the Falcons are on the board. And you hear it, the crowd. We heard them chanting earlier, but finally they come alive as the Falcons pick up their first round.
It was a bit of a murmur earlier, wasn't it? The crowd was a little bit quiet, a little bit timid.
Yeah, let's go Falcons. There we go.
Yeah,
a little bit more energy in it now with that round.
The classic NA chant of let's go, what an X team, you know, let's go whoever. But they're really getting themselves active now, and so they should. They've just picked up a round against BDS, and let's be honest, it's not the first round that they could have picked up. There's been a lot of close rounds up until this point, and BDS are obviously going to have to do something a little bit more than just pushing through bunker.
So let's see here how the members of BDS are going to look to try and close this game down. Obviously, we'll be on a different site as we move ourselves upstairs, and that means we'll see a little bit of a different operator lineup potentially coming in from BDS as well. The Nook stays in play, and will be seen on Lems this time around. No sign of any repicks here either, so more likely going to lock in. Aside from the Nook, what is a fairly standard lineup for this type of a push.
And BDS don't need to do anything too flashy here, right? They don't need to try and reinvent the wheel. Oregon is very, very solved as a map. It's been played probably more than any other map that we have inside of the pool. So a lot of things are very, very well known. And a nice simple lineup like this, a couple of hard breaches, a couple of frag grenades, and a little bit of a Nook to maybe play a little bit sneaky with. It really is all you need. And the Falcons know this. They're going to play into that quite nicely as well. Look at the information denial that they're bringing. We've got the Mozzie. We've got a lot of soak of utility there. We've got the Wamai magnets, and we have those Aruni gates, and they too haven't ignored the Valkyrie. How can you if she is available?
Deeper into this round, Renshiro going to see if he can line up a nice nade to start this out. Could have been pointed at some utility positioned upstairs as well, but either way, not going to meet the marker of anybody on the Falcons. 0 damage done there. You hear a few more nades coming out from the attackers as well. Once again, to probably clear out some of the resistance deeper into these sight holds. As BDS continue to move forward here. A little bit nervous, it seems, about what the Falcons may have been cooking up towards the kitchen area of this map, but obviously not going to find much from that. We'll see as well. The clone of Iana work its way up through the kids' dorm stairs and leave a window of opportunity open for Renshiro to take up that position towards the top. Won't stick with it, though, as we actually are going to see a little bit of a flank maneuver attempting to be lined up by the Falcons, as we'll see one of their players try to push down the classroom hall.
This is where BDS can be quite dangerous. We talk quite a lot about up nades, we talk about depth charges from below. This is a site that can really start to play a lot of damage into. We've got Mad Skills, could be getting himself into a bit of harm here on the top of T3. Nade's starting to fly in now. Player on Repel does dodge the C4 that is impending, but we do have a player that's sneaking in from below. A little hop in there from Greedy was very ill-timed, and that's the diffuser down on the ground. This is a nightmare from this point out for BDS, and Mad Skills is making it even worse. Picks up a second on the round, and that is going to be a nightmare. BDS, they have got no chance, surely, of coming back from this one. Alems, one of the last players left alive. Renshiro there does manage to get himself picked up as well, but it really isn't going to be an easy one to try and clutch out, especially with the case being at the top of T3. what can you do about it? You've got to try and challenge onto him and pick it up, but you've only got 45 seconds left, and you've still got the entire team of the Falcons to wade on through. It'll be a very difficult challenge here. Alem's going to try and get himself up these white stairs, which he can do, but what can he do from this point? Activates the scanner, immediately is peaked and taken out there by Jaylan. O'Kills comes in with one for himself. It's going to be a flawless round for Falcons here.
Definitely going to see that local crowd start to get roaring a bit here, as it's not just one pickup from the Falcons, it's 2 in a row. Have to note, of course, the big misplay that came in for BDS to enable this in the first place, leaping into T3, either without checking it or assuming they would have been able to take that player out with a combined force. Certainly not the case, and Mad Skills sets up the Falcons for an easy closeout and a flawless round on top of that. They're not out of this game just yet, but they need 4 more rounds, doubling the count they've already picked up here, just to be able to take it to overtime as well.
It's a situation of do it again, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Great couple of rounds from Falcons, and it's going to do a lot to, you know, make BDS think twice. Crowd starts getting a little bit loud. All of a sudden, this BDS player going, God, we can't do anything right here. We've had two attacking rounds, and we've really not come away with all too much. I mean, that one was gone from the moment that Bride got himself taken out on that top floor. And as a player on BDS, you're going to know that that is going to be the case. It's all about resetting. BDS only need to get lucky once here, or have one good round of play on the attack to really pick up this first map and take us on to our second. The question is, will it be here?
We'll have to see, as obviously this will be the tertiary site for the Falcons, so assumably they're weakest hold, but sometimes that assumption can be wrong. Teams just continue to play into the normal rotation for tradition's sake, and not surprising their opponents. Let's see if the Falcons will have that good defense cooked up on the inside of the dining room or out of the kitchen hold. We'll be able to knock out a third round. We actually have 2 players from the Falcons holding the T3 angle as well. Joker playing on the beam down below. So this is going to be very awkward for BDS to try and clear out. That nade goes in, I'm pretty sure in part to knock out the castle barricade. It's not going to succeed in doing that. May have had a mute jam on the other side they were trying to knock out as well. So we'll see how they try to deal with the barricade in just a second, as obviously the tower needs to be the priority due to the 2-player presence that's up here in T3 right now. Are going to see, oh, great utility usage coming in from BDS as well, just blocking out the windows with the Osa shield. Gonna try and make these 2 players a bit of a moot point, but no! Shaiko strikes true elsewhere on the map by knocking out Mad Skills with a nade.
What better operator than Osa to try and take out that top floor in the tower? You can really cause a lot of damage there with those shields. Not only does it give you a little bit of visibility, but it also gives you a little bit of protection as well. BDS, they are making much fewer mistakes here as they pick up 3 kills on taking that tower. It's almost like Falcon said, we're going to hold the tower, it worked last time. Well, BDS just came and they really went for it. No longer is Bride just repelling in without a care in the world. They are putting all of their attention onto it, and O'Kills is left in the clutch. Only just seen about half of the round. We can hear Shaiko tanking a laser gate just to get on into the site a little bit quicker there, as I'm more than likely the plan will start to go down fairly soon. O'Kill's options are limited here as the back wall has been opened as well. Picks himself at 1 onto Alems, but Alems is almost the sacrificial lamb there, as he now can give out that information and say, yep, O'Kills is on flags. There is a lot of information for him to be playing with here as the plan continues to go down. C4 attempted, but it is not going to land. Shaiko there to close things out for BDS, and they're going to take map number 1 here inside of this best of 3.
A moment of hope for the Falcons roster here at home for them, but unfortunately it is not going to last. A little bit of an over-reliance on that T3 tower strat. It's very much a one-and-done strategy, as we just saw there. The second attempt, BDS is more than ready to shut it down. They course correct, quickly take back control over this matchup, and line it up. 7-2 will be the victory for BDS on their first map. We're not going to waste any time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to throw it right back to the desk to break down map number 1 and get us ready for the second.
Thank you very much, Blue and X. BDS take it in a wonderful fashion despite a big effort from Falcons. It was not enough to break down one of the best teams in the world, and definitely one of the best in Europe, despite some recent issues. Welcome back to the Analyst Desk. We'll all work together to break this one down here, because BDS looked like they had control, and that start on the fence gave them so much of an advantage.
Yeah, I think it was what we discussed about before on the pre-game and saying when you're in Oregon, you're definitely going to win rounds, especially starting on the defense. You're going to win your laundry, you're going to win your kids' dorms. It was all about that tertiary site, that third bomb site, the meeting kitchen site. And I think ultimately that game came down to it was that BDS won their 2 tertiary sites, and in the end, Falcons couldn't win it out in that last round that we just saw.
I would say that Falcons could perform better in their attack. I see them using much more of casual attacks that usually all the teams do. So I was expecting them to do some more creative attacks or some crazy stuff. So I would say that I was expecting more for them.
Well, let's take a look at our scoreboard for this map brought to you by STC. And here are our top performers of this match. Now, O'Kills really tried his best in this game. You'll see Shalad not too far away from it. But things were a bit more spread out for BDS, but not by much.
Yeah, and that usual suspect up there on the most kills, of course, Shaiko. And what I want to say about that is that he really played on that crutch operator of Valkyrie. And we're talking about operator bans, and obviously Falcons chose to get rid of the mirror. Yep. Left the Valkyrie open. Shaiko played it every single defensive round, and most of those kills he got was on the defense.
I think it was a plan from Falcons to try to have this Valk open to have more advantage in defense, but for some reason they forgot that they would be starting on attack, so they couldn't handle it. Yeah. It was a problem.
Unfortunately there. And we'll play some highlights brought to you by Aramco, of course one of our sponsors here on the screen, and just to see some of those moments of big action that you were talking about, Twister, how really it all fell apart for Falcons. But for BDS, again, starting off on that defense, you talked a lot about site rotation and the sites that are more comfortable. Which is the tertiary site? Where will teams be most comfortable? For BDS, it seems like really anywhere is possible.
I would say that for sure on defense in this map, the third defense that you choose is the key defense that will show if you win the map or not. And BDS was able to win both of them. They were on a 6-0 and Falcon could not handle at least one. So I just would say that maybe in this case, Falcons would have prepared more crazy stuff to bring to this game and try to do some different kind of...
And I think when we saw a very similar scenario, which was Wild up against Liquid earlier on in game 1, it was clearly kind of difference in the levels of the two teams. But Wild used the maps, the attacks, the pacing, the strategy, and even the operator bounce to their advantage. And we didn't see that from Falcons today. Even the map selection of Oregon, it can only be played certain ways because the map is so linear. So I was looking for a little bit more of a map that's a little bit newer, got a little bit more freedom for these players to make plays. We've seen them, pick up kills and win in even gunfights. It's just the strategy felt a little bit behind. The operator bans felt a little bit behind from Falcons. So I think that's where they came undone a little bit.
But now you come in, okay, the map's done. You're good to go. You got it out of your system. Yeah. You took the loss, sure. Now it's, can we refocus, get back into the swing of things, and make it so we use that crowd momentum to our advantage? Otherwise, you would just end up in the same situation, Twister, where honestly, Falcons looked a bit afraid of BDS.
I would say that it's a little bit difficult to play your first LAN in front of a big crowd like this. When you're playing at home, it's a little bit difficult. I faced it before back there in Brazil, playing against Liquid, playing against some teams. And I would say that pressure just makes everything harder for Falcon right now. So I think they will have to have a really good mentality for this game, and I will be sure that if they forgot about the crowd, they will be good for this next match.
And to wrap up kind of this first map, of course brought to you by Spotify, one of our many sponsors for Gamers8. Jack, you're also a big expert in all of this, how to come back from a big situation like it. Is there hope?
There's absolutely hope. I mean, obviously the cards are stacked against Falcons, right? In that they've lost their map pick, they've lost it quite convincingly. But the next hope is the next map. The hope is the next map is you've got clear this out of your mind. They've got support. I was just in that arena. There are so many people on that side of Falcons supporting them. They need to harness that energy and use it against BDS.
They really need to use their best. And BDS are no strangers to big stages. Twister, you've seen them playing so many times in it. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the series and prep you for map number 2. See you in a moment.
عايز تترجم راب؟ تعالى لي. ملوك الصين دي انا ملخصها في سطور، بس مين يقرا؟ فاهم؟ كلام الشارع ده انا هرسه. هرش كل المجال حبايبي بروز.
وانا كاكازوكو مصدع ايه ابكي نظرة لو على الحلاوة عندي كاستر والاسم
عفرت يا عفرت، هتفضل معفرتها ولا ايه يا برو؟
انت مين يا هو ازاي ده دخل هنا يا جدعان؟
نكسر الدنيا الاول وبعدين نتكلم، نعيد من الاول.
لا 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 مش مسجل.
اخواتي
عشان فاهمين السين، سبوتيفاي عمل لك بلاي ليست الاقوى راب مصري اسمع ملوك السين ببلاش.
Welcome back, friends, to the analyst desk. And as the teams get ready for map number 2, it's perfect time for us to talk about it and prep you for it. Again, we'll pull up that map bands and map veto graphic and tell you exactly how things went down. Already, map number 1 is done, went to Oregon, and unfortunately for Falcons, the hometown heroes were not able to take it against their opponents. BDS Border will be our second one, and potentially Kafe is decider, yet to be decided. Of course, BDS picking a Border for this one. I'll turn to my wonderful analyst Twister. What are your thoughts on BDS's pick, Border?
I would say that this pick would be from not knowing what Falcons do, so they should try to pick up this map to try to do some aggressive game style. I would think that they will bring this to this game because it would be very important for them to finalize this match as soon as possible, because I don't think they want to do this longer than it was.
In terms of preference for Border, it's BDS's #1 preference map. Like, they love going to this map. They've actually decided to ban it away in probably the last 3 or 4 EUL games as well, because they want to save it to use in the best of 3s here. So I was not surprised, because they don't know what Falcons do. They can't counter them. Just pick your favorite map, play it, and win it.
Quickly, you ban Valkyrie?
This time for sure. If they not ban it, I would say that it's another 2-1 for BDS.
Attacker bans?
I mean, the Thinker obviously doesn't do much when Shaiko can just kill anyway. So Thinker's always a good ban, and I think especially so on Border, but, you know, realistically, I don't think it matters too much.
Well, let's see how it goes. Maybe Falcons can bring it back and take it to a map 3. Let's pull up our casters, Blue and X. Gentlemen, all yours for map 2.
Thank you very much, Milos. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to leap into map number 2 here and see if we can get that quick closeout from BDS or the Falcons, who, credit to them, were improving their performance towards the end of Border, just definitely not quickly enough, especially if we saw them pick up those 2 rounds towards the tail end of the matchup. We'll have to see if they can continue to increase their strength as we get into Border. Another map the teams should be fairly familiar with how to play into, at least generally speaking. As a team, might be looking at a little bit of a weaker showing here from the Falcons, but we'll have to wait and see exactly how prepared they were for this map.
BDS, for me, is a nightmare map. I think it is incredibly difficult to play into. There is so much opportunity for the attackers on this map. The attackers really have the run of their teeth. So we'll have to see how this one kicks off here. Falcons are going to be starting off on the attacks. They are going to be given the benefit of that aggressive map advantage that we do get here. BDS, they're not going to differ too much from what they banned in the previous map of Oregon. They're going to remove the Ying here. And as the desk was saying, where do you look toward an attacker ban here? What do you want to try and restrict on the side of BDS? Because everything can be substituted and a lot of things can be replaced. They're going to opt for a Thatcher.
So Thatcher will get himself knocked out. Not going to be hugely surprising. So we do still tend to see a bit of that emphasis on hard breach, especially for a few of our sites. But I'm going to see him knocked out. There's the Valkyrie ban. We were talking about how we needed to see that, and indeed we get it from the Falcons side of things. So BDS will not be able to rely on that extra intel going into their second map. And now we'll see the final ban come up from BDS. This will be the self-handicap ban, as they'll also have to deal with it here on the first few rounds. Mira will be knocked out. Once again, as we've been seeing her knocked out quite handily, not only in this tournament, but many, many tournaments in the past. Just far too handy on this map to provide that intel boost to the defense.
Mira Valkyrie, you can't go wrong with that. You've got to remove these two when you're looking toward a border. If you went through and re-watched the last map, I would love to know how many kills you can credit to a black eye camera, because Shaiko was a nightmare with those cameras. So removing that Valkyrie, taking away that opportunity for that information, something that we know BDS plays incredibly well off the back of, as do most teams, is going to hamper that performance somewhat. The Mirror there getting removed as well. Mirror fantastic on just about every single map there is. Specifically on certain sites, you would really look to try and bring it to enhance and really spread that hold somewhat, but not going to be an option. Instead, we're just going to be left with a lot of utility and a lot of fraggers. We're still going to have a little bit of information in there as well, but it isn't going to be as prevalent.
Well, let's see. You can hear the Falcons fans chanting out inside of the audience. Saw more and more of them trickling in over the course of map 1. Now with those 2 rounds picked up at the end of it, they're looking to see their team be victorious here on the second map. We'll just have to wait and see if that will be the case. BDS setting up quite heavily on the inside of CCTV to start things out here, bolstering the defense, of course, on the actual site inside of lockers. This will be a cutaway position, so we'll see that player fall back if things get a little bit too hot for them to deal with at a midpoint in the round. But that's all up to the Falcons and how they intend to clear out this extension.
You really can't avoid attacking into CCTV either. It can be very difficult to attack into, but it can equally be very difficult to defend. Good opportunity is to try and get in below. We can see some nades, some drones, being placed in there to try and gain is customs clear. Can we enter in through that area? Can we look to put a bit of vertical pressure onto these players that are likely occupying security? Got to get yourself out there onto the rappel. Joker taking a huge chunk of damage there. Fortunately, on the Finker can stim himself back up, wait for that to regen and get himself to just above half.
Falcons a little bit restrained at the moment, trying to see if they can maybe catch an early rotation mistake from BDS before they fully commit themselves to the interior of the building. Lem's very much ready to potentially challenge against some of those angles too. He gets a bit of fire back after he goes out towards that window. But not anything he's going to be too courageous about, so much so that he would go back towards it. Meanwhile, O'Kill's just going to get run out by Shaiko, but that's exactly what Kotos was set up to counter. He needs to go for 2 though, as he is now being challenged by a second member of BDS. Swings around to get the kill, and he's going to find it as Rafal gets knocked out here.
A little bit of an assist there from the Finker stim as well, just giving Kotos that little bit of extra boost that he needed inside of the engagement. He can now look to take on that 90 corridor, but doesn't really want to extend too far out of security for the time being, and quite rightly so. BDS are primed, ready and waiting for this refrag. They know exactly where he is going to be, and they're not rushing too much to get it. Alemzi's tucked himself right into offices here, looking to try and play in and around the breach, not wanting to give up this ground, because as soon as you give up office, that's a direct line then on into the site. Alemz does have a bit of information to play with, but he has been droned. Can drop though, and of course on the Oryx can make his own way back to site.
Strained slow style of play is working out so far for the Falcons to try and capitalize on the aggression from BDS. As you said before, though, BDS playing into this with a lot of info for themselves, even having the Thunderbird to fall back on, but Red Shearer wanting to get a chance to use it. BDS goes hyper-aggressive and just walks directly into the setup from the Falcons. So it's a near flawless round for them to start things out on map number 2 as they pick up the opening round this time.
Great start there from the Falcons. They took CCTV fantastically well. There was a real big pressure and a big push inside to make that successful. And it was, really started to fall apart from there. We saw Lems getting put under a lot of pressure inside of the office area. And Falcons didn't rush the round. That was one of the more important things, I think. They found a little bit of early success, and they were happy to rest on that and wait until they'd gathered that next stage of information, that next load of, right, where are these defenders going to be playing? Then they can look to move through and clean up shop. And that's exactly what they did.
So the Falcons off to a booming start. Gonna look to try and carry that forward here. A little bit of a change up with regards to the strategy, though, for BDS. We're gonna see them bring a few new wrinkles into this one, most notably the Frost coming out for Bride. Also going to see a Bandit picked up by Lems and a few other adjustments starting to show up as well. So we'll see how all of this comes together as BDS looks to still try and control things here on the initial site choice. They're making a second run of it, calling that first round out as a bit of a fluke and hoping that they might be able to course correct on round number 2. Very similar setup with the Azami barricades going down inside of CCTV as they'll look to also defend this in a similar way, but the Bandit battery is going to help out to reinforce those office side walls that were breached really quickly by the Falcons in the last round and were quintessential for them pushing into the site.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
Well, the Falcons were successful there inside of round number 1. Let's see how they're able to do here in round number 2. We saw a lot of aggression from BDS. Shaiko was getting himself out onto the balcony and really getting himself in and around the action. Maybe, just maybe, he's going to do the same again here, or alternately, maybe play a little bit more reserved. We are seeing that slightly more reserved lineup coming out here from BDS. We've got Bride rocking the Frost, just trying to catch people out in some of those welcome mats. And again, a heavy presence inside of security with those Azami keeper barricades to play off the back of. It is a real nice way of just keeping yourself safe and giving yourself a few less angles to be too concerned about.
Sneaky drone there, hiding out behind the Kiba barricade that Shaiko just walked past. Obviously only going to really be useful for audio intel, which Shaiko is denying to a decent extent by mainly crouching around here, but still the Falcons definitely prioritizing the knockout of Shaiko. Going to see if they can get the nade from below, and they nearly do. It's not close enough, unfortunately. That's going to seemingly activate Shaiko. He works himself out, finds his initial pick against Kota. Is going to try and quickly reinforce that opening that was just made via a nade as well. Thankfully won't be under any immediate threat as Falcons don't have the confidence to push directly in and knock him out. Nitro out over the top, but we won't see it explode as the nade from Joker is just a little bit quicker.
Lem's there, going to be the first to fall on the side of BDS. He did get his C4 out there, but it didn't really come to anything. Whereas we saw C4s being huge on Oregon for BDS. They are yet to find too much success in the opening couple of rounds. Okills takes a huge amount of damage there as he starts to try and push into that armory area. But Shaiko is still not being dealt with here. Previously, he gave himself away by running out and taking out one of the players of Falcons, but this time he is sat tight, and it is causing quite the problem here. Kills are continuing to trade elsewhere, but with Shaiko still holding down inside of security, it isn't going to be too straightforward to root him out of there. Madskills, he's going to get a little bit of a stim as he looks to try and push on into players in Fountain and Archives. But on the Hibana, he's only got so many bullets to make these challenges with.
Okills gets that finishing blow off on the Shaiko, finally ending his rampage. Much greater contribution from the inside of CCTV this time, but the rest of his team has not been able to hold as well. The Falcons still with a +1 advantage as we move into the final 30 seconds of play and need to begin leveraging themselves into a position to execute here. Bride, though, still in the depths of office, closer to Fountain right now. Okills, though, already knocking out his teammate, but even though we see the Frostmat kill come out, it won't matter as Okills shuts down the last player on BDS as well, handing a second round to the Falcons.
That would have been a terrible way to go if the Frostmat had dealt the finishing blow in that round, but fortunately the Falcons still had that man count advantage, and that is in part just to how successful they were in the opening portion of the round. They didn't choose to deal too head-on with Shaiko, but he really wasn't too much of a factor. Sure, he held a lot of space, but the Falcons just attacked where he wasn't. They put a lot of their energy into that office side take, and it really worked out for them. Madskills had some cracking shots there inside of the office in onto the Archives.
almost seemingly targeting the support for Shaiko, the fallbacks that would have helped him to get out of that situation, which obviously left him off on an island when they had those initial difficulties dealing with him. Great adjustment to the strategy for the Falcons is obviously the earlier kills they do get leave Shaiko detached from his teammates and ultimately susceptible to getting picked himself, which is exactly what we see happen. And as you said, yeah, he maintains space, but it's a moot point when the Falcons have taken over the rest of Office and seemingly the rest of the map surrounding that site. So they'll take a confident win for themselves on this second round. BDS will finally have had enough of that upstairs hold, so they'll move beyond that. Over instead into Janitor to see if they can try and clean things up here and finally get a round on the board.
Well, true to its form, Border is living up to being an attacker-sided map, as we're seeing the defenders have a very tough time of things at the moment to get around on the board, and that's just in part to how friendly Border is for attacking sides. It can be just so difficult to keep control of key areas. Shaiko are going to opt for a little bit of a change of pace in this round at least. He's going to be playing Pulse on the heartbeat scanner. Now he's going to be able to call out and say a couple people on rappel, moving upstairs. Alternatively, he can run out off the back of his own information, which I really wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
Shaiko continuing to get a good amount of intel bleed in terms of what's going on over here on the west side of the map. kills, but now he's grouped up with at least one other player, and you'll notice there's finally not going to be that resistance pointed out from CCTV. That would really be needed for the site hold regardless. The emphasis is going to be much more on the inside of lockers there, although we do see a bit of a swing from Renshiro. Dealing some decent damage to kills, but J-Lad coming in for the great support to make up for that. Quickly, fully knocks out Renshiro, leaving the players on BDS down a player yet again.
First blood there going to go toward Falcons, and the second before we see a response. Shaiko makes a C4 land as Joker's going to push himself in now to Tellers. Has a couple of angles to work with and does get swung on, but the shot isn't landed. He can, of course, choose to stim himself up, but he does still have a nade in pocket, so plenty of utility to continue to take on these engagements, and more better than the LMG to just rip through barricades and soft walls. Rafal is left to try and make a little bit of a rotation. He will, of course, be the player that missed those couple of crucial shots a little bit earlier. BDS dropping back down onto site as well, as BDS look to try and consolidate here.
BDS trying to contain the chaos that's being thrown at them by the Falcons. It's very much controlled chaos, though. It's a great formula to be able to knock out these players on an individual basis, as you're seeing against Shaiko right now, trying to contend against it, or more so escape it more than anything. He'll be able to get away into the depths of the site, but now he's gonna run away from a nade as well. Shaiko in hot pursuit right now, and he can't outrun the Falcons. Okills knocks him out, and Okills, what a quick follow-up on BDS as well. The plant going down, Rafal the only one left. He's completely out of the site. He'll be able to pick up the first of 4 needed here, but still, positionally, he is out of it entirely. Needs to try and negotiate a major comeback here. Otherwise, it'll be a third round onto the board for the Falcons as they are dominating on this attacking side so far. And there you have it, Mad Skills finishes it up from up on top.
Chaining round after round after round. Falcons doing an incredible job here. The crowd is really starting to get behind them as well. They were starting to make a little bit of noise toward the end of Oregon. We saw, a couple of flutters of chances from the Falcons on that map, but here and now they are in full swing. The chants are going, and that's going to mean a lot if you're sat on that stage. If you know that you've got a crowd behind you, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better about everything that's going on. And for BDS, they are still looking to find success here. None of the sites that they've been to so far have worked. They're going to take us down into Tellers and Bathroom, which, let's be honest, it's not great, an easy site to try and defend onto. Any site that has a direct line from outside to in through a single window or through a doorway is always going to be a difficult one. And this site has that all-important window into Tellers.
We do oftentimes see teams try to set this up as a little bit of a kill box to where they position themselves directly outside or near that window and essentially try to trap their opponents into going for that type of an execute, only to collapse upon them the second they think they are safe. Even so, it's a bit difficult for the defense to directly counter out that type of a push just because of the way that the window and the interior site is formulated. So we'll see how exactly BDS tries to handle this. You can see they very much want to take the hands-off approach to the interior of the site. Not going to be directly contesting against it to start. Looking to try and spread their wings a bit, see if they can get these opening picks, which have been eluding them for the previous 3 rounds, and then fall back closer to the site when Falcons make a bid for it.
Confidence certainly on the side of the Falcons at the moment. You've only got to look at the scoreboard to realize that. Madskill's 4-0. He's playing the Hibana as well. He's not really looked upon to get a large share of frags, but he's still managing to do so. O-Kills as well in a very successful game so far. Certainly two players to really keep your eye on moving into this and future rounds. Alem's just going to be playing at the top of these east stairs, playing patiently for a pick, and he might be given an opportunity here. Does have the MX4 Storm, an incredibly fast fire rate weapon, and he's looking to take quite an aggressive challenge here, just trying to bait his opponent into that swing and into that peak. No cigar for the meantime.
BDS doing a much better job of wasting out the time, and in this specific round here, losing a much lower amount of their player count, as obviously we've still kept things up towards a 5v5. Some intel coming out, I believe, from BDS there as far as a player potentially being positioned out over on the eastern balcony, but I don't know if that's going to actually end up being correct. Finally, we start to see some damage roll out. As players from BDS do try to contest against this push from O-Kills, moving on to the inside of break room and security. He'll be knocked down to right above 60% of his health pool. Alems will take an arguably greater amount of damage, so he'll be brought down to right around 50.
BDS really not looking to give anything away here, so much so that Brede is going to make use of the pocketed reinforcement and just block off a further line of sight here, as a lot of the clock has been wasted now. We're getting in for 2 minutes that has been burnt up until this point, but we first of all have to see that opening kill, and that is going to go to O-Kills. Alems sent to the cameras.
O-Kills continuing to make his impact, but Shaiko, quick to run around here into Passport, or Customs rather, is going to be able to work himself up, knock out O-Kills, and keep the numbers even down to a 4v4. Joker with the was that
How
the roof
does he get
repel?
away with that?
What? Works himself in here, repels all the way down to just outside of the site. Kotos makes another impact here for the Falcons as well, brings the numbers back into his team's favor. BDS going to need to try and strike back against this. They're stuck on the interior of the site now, but at the same time, look at some of these health pools on the Falcons. Mad skills. Obviously seeing J-Lad go down there at the hands of Renshiro. Koto is also at about 5 or so HP here. This is going to be a rough push from the Falcons, with the members of BDS still well and secured inside of the depths of those sites. Mad skills right around the corner from one of the players on BDS as well. He's going to get caught by it. 2 in a row for Renshiro and Shaiko. Finally looking like we're going to get this team onto the board, but hold on, Kotos not done fighting just yet. He's going to take this to the bitter end of the timer, where ultimately he will be knocked out by Shaiko, and indeed we will finally see that round from BDS go up onto the board.
I would have been a little bit worried there if Joker had gotten away with anything. Nobody gets away with rappelling down from the roof. I'm sure that that's what we caught him in the animation, right toward the bitter end of the rappel there. BDS have managed to stabilize, and they have managed to pick themselves up an all-important round here, not allowing it to just be a total clean sweep over to the Falcons here. Something that they did really well inside of this round, the trade game from Shaiko. He was in the right place at the right time. No one paid that much attention to him over inside of Customs, but they really, really needed to. That narrow channel that they created at the bottom of those east stairs as well, with the castle barricade, a little bit of a rotation as well, it just turned into a kill zone. And that's exactly what BDS used it for. Got themselves on the board here, and they can look to try and salvage this half.
More than likely going to be a bit of a worrisome win as far as the Falcons are concerned, as well as that's really the tertiary site for BDS. You have mentioned it, a pretty difficult one to defend because of the direct access from the outside, but BDS seems to excel inside of it. I mean, this is going to allude to a greater scope of change for BDS, that they're finally starting to understand how to isolate out members of the Falcons and get a much greater advantage going for themselves inside of at least the first 2 minutes of play. So now we have to see if this comes to bear, as they're going to go back to the upstairs hold, where unfortunately they just have been unable to negotiate even a close round here against the Falcons. It's been all the Falcons all day here, as they've taken 2 attacks on this site already. BDS is going to see if they can finally change that record up a bit by locking things in for the defense on a 3rd attempt.
A lot of it hinges on how well Shaiko plays inside of CCTV, really, and you shouldn't put a lot onto one player, but BDS are essentially sending him out there and saying, look, Shaiko go play in CCTV and security.
Shaiko go kill.
Shaiko go kill if he can, or just try and stay alive and eat up a little bit of utility. Those keeper barriers really are a great friend for him. He's playing quite aggressively here, immediately gets called out by the in-game announcement saying that he is outside. He's got the drones to contend with, and he knows that this is going to be the biggest problem here. But he, of course, does have the benefit of these barriers that regenerate over time, and he can use to try and block up a lot of those holes.
2 drones been knocked out by him here over the past few seconds. Not indicating towards anything greater here, though, as far as Falcons' drone game. They still have 6 to go, so well over half of the potential drone lineup for them. Obviously, most of these have been wasted on Shaiko, but that's very much needed, as we've seen in past rounds here, Falcons very much want to actively hunt down players like Shaiko, especially if they can isolate them out onto an island here. So we might see that ignorance play into it. Indeed, at least for Joker, we will. Works himself out into the fight versus Shaiko mid-retreat. Takes him down, and another one he's quickly shown as well against Mad Skills, with him taking down Alems. Another beautiful start to the round from the Falcons. Just 3 kills away now from locking in a 3rd consecutive victory on this site.
A couple of quick kills, and they've still got nades left to go as well. Joker has one in his pocket. I'm sure he's going to be saving that for a pretty special occasion in a moment. These BDS players are getting funneled and constricted in onto the site, and they are continuing to fall. Shaping up to be a flawless, but not quite. Still the next best thing. 4 players alive from Falcons right at the bitter end of that one, and they maintain this lead.
Falcons continue to excel here on Border, showing indeed that they are no slouches in this matchup. They want that 3rd map. They want the ultimate victory as well if we go the full distance. And already making good progress to try and lock things in quickly on map number 2, setting up a 4-1 scoreline as we get ready to head into the final round of the opening half. But obviously, a test will sit before this team. Moving back over to that defensive side, we'll have to see if their strength echoes onto that just as much as it has for the attack. Because remember, back on Border as well, we saw that very 2-dimensional performance coming in from the Falcons. A little bit lackluster on their attacks, but able to course correct for the second half and still put up those 2 rounds before ultimately succumbing to BDS's 6-0 start.
Last round of the defense here for BDS. They're going to be taking us into workshop and ventilation. See if they can try their hand down there. Of course, bathroom and tellers will still be locked out, and maybe not somewhere that they want to try and get lucky on again, as it could just be that Falcons are now prepared to go back there or not. As you said, tertiary site, always a little bit of a difficult one to judge. But for the meantime, Falcons have been really successful on every other site that they have attacked on into. The BDS have been forced into this very sort of passive playstyle where quite often there's just a lot of them getting caught on the site after that roam game has initially failed, or that lurk game. But it can be very difficult to pull off on a map like Border. And BDS, an experienced team, they are going to be very cognizant of that, and I don't think they're going to get into their own heads too much.
Kotas will open up a small line to try and play into the downstairs push towards the bathroom there. If the need should arise for it, we'll follow that up soon. I don't like actually the jail lineup, now that I see this better. Lems is going to be able to strike first. A little bit out of nowhere this time, too. J-Lad on the sledge going to end up getting caught out. This is probably mid-barricade slap with the sledgehammer there. So he's going to be able to take him down on that. Oh, kills, though. So impressive with these entries as he snipes out Ranjiro from just outside of CCTV and quickly equalizes things back down into a 4 versus 4.
Got to be a fan of all kills as well, rocking the Furious skin. I'm a big fan of that. Must be what's giving him that lethal edge there in those opening engagements. Alems just toying with an engagement outside of Archives. Going to turn his attention elsewhere for the time being, as a nade will be sent on through, but a peek from Brede nets in 1, but not the second. Gets a little bit overzealous there on the re-peek, and it gives an option for Kotas to push himself on through. Can now look to try and deal with LMs inside of the Archives, and will at least get the down onto him. Won't be known of that at the time being, but the nade comes through. No, he gets a team kill with the nade. I thought he went through the hatch. What has gone on?
We can hear it rolling as well, so an unlucky catch for the Falcons, as now BDS, through no prowess of their own, have been able to push themselves into a 3v2 scenario. Falcons not out of this one just yet either. Still over a minute to play. You could see Koto is ready to hop right down into the hatch. A bold play indeed. Goes for the quick fuse nade, but that's going to be a little bit too much intel. Given over towards BDS. Makes the play that much more obvious, and it's a quick shutdown against him for Rafal. Joker will be able to hold on, trading out Alems and bringing it into a 1v2. Beepers are going to catch him, and so will this heartbeat sensor, as we'll also get the signal from the diffuser being picked up. They'll know he's going to start conquest toward the drop at any moment here. And here we go, down through the hatch, and surprisingly, BDS, they're not ready for it. He gets the first kill, is going to try to recover as he goes down the second time, but no, will not be the case. BDS locks it in and is able to get a second round for themselves at the end of the half.
Feels closer than it should have been that last round. You've got the heartbeat scanner. You should know exactly where he is. Like the fact that Shaiko's let him out of his vision for that long to now drop a hatch and BDS gets caught essentially looking the wrong way. Real risky stuff there. BDS managed to pick up 2 rounds on their defense. Is that going to be enough? Quite possibly could be. Border can be a very difficult map. And if you're sat at this thinking a 2-4 split as we move into our attacking half, yeah, we're not feeling too bad about that. And I don't think that BDS will be feeling too bad about that. But the Falcons, they played the game that was in front of them and they took every advantage that they could have done.
So we're going to see their first bout of defense here as obviously the sides will switch. Falcons going for the same starting site up here inside of lockers. Is going to bring actually somewhat similar lineup as what we'll see the Thunderbird come out for them to be able to fall back upon. Might even be throwing one of the Kona stations down on the inside of the CCTV extension, which is something that we actually didn't see members of BDS end up doing. Aside from this, it is going to look pretty similar in regards to utility mitigation being the priority here for the Falcons, but obviously that little wrinkle with Mad Skills bringing out the Legion as well to trip up the more forward assaults from BDS if they end up running into those goo mines.
I kind of like the Nomad from Rafale as well. I kind of like that, look, we're going to try and pin you in here. We're not going to give you that space to move in, and we're not going to let you run out because we know what happens when that's allowed to happen. It can be very dangerous indeed, but the Legion pickup again, equally as good. It's just going to do a lot to slow down that push from the attackers, especially if Mad Skills stays alive long enough for plenty of those goo mines to regenerate over time. It could really cause quite the nuisance. Those Rune Gates, they've been placed fairly out of the site. That's quite an extended hold there into East Airs, really. You would usually expect to see them a little bit closer in. They can be very easily burnt out on the extremities. And you're not realistically going to be able to hold the entirety of Border as much as you might want to. It is very difficult to do.
So for the players here on BDS, looking to try and recenter themselves and take back control over this matchup. As you said, wanting a lot of control over the round as well with the pickup of the Nomad here. They're going to be stuck on drone for the time being as they try to isolate out these players closer to tellers. Lems has a good idea of the general area, and I believe it was Oak Hills roaming around this spot, but is not going to be able to find them that quickly. Rafaldo will be able to catch out Joker, giving the first kill of the round finally over towards BDS. Mad Skills still maintains a presence, though, on the inside of CCTV and the surrounding hallway. So there is still that issue to be dealt with as BDS can now finally focus on the upstairs. Clear, great timing on this play from Lems as well. Catches J-Lad just when he came out to check it himself. So that's a nice headshot being lined up for the members of BDS. And another kill going to be found as they finally isolate out Mad Skills near the CCTV area and take him down too, forcing back the presence of Oak Hills further into the site here. Out of necessity, obviously, as we're down to a 2v5.
Difficult spot for Oak Hills to be in. At least he's managed to rotate himself as far back as Fountain. Shouldn't be too much of a difficulty to get himself into Archive, but he's now the last player standing as Shaiko draws blood as well. Renshiro, he's going to be credited with that final kill, and BDS start things off with a flawless here, really stamping down that authority on the attack.
Indeed, their opponents allowed to get away with a whole lot in the previous half, so it seems like BDS are going for the shutdown now at the beginning of the second half, and very well could do it if that attacking prowess, as we talked about before, this map tends to generally favor that attacking side. That continues to burn through for BDS, and we see some of the more top players of this team start to shine through as well. We saw them in that previous half. Shaiko, for instance, struggling to maintain his own solo CCTV extension due to how well the Falcons were able to knock him out on the majority of those rounds. But we'll get into the next one now. As you can see here, we'll find out exactly how the Falcons look to rebound themselves as they'll actually go for the teller's hold now directly on round 2. Not going to mess around with the second attempt upstairs in lockers.
Maybe looking for a bit of the same fortune that BDS found on this site, although they are going for a slightly different setup. No castle barricade here, so they can't really do too much of the same thing, but the sentiment does remain. Got a little bit of information for now there inside of the Mozzie. A little bit of a different slowing / trap operator here as the Legion has been substituted out for a Malusi, as you can use those Banshees to gain a somewhat similar result to the goo mines. They are just a little bit less intrusive and don't, of course, cause damage. Slightly easier to see and deal with as well. Maybe that is going to be a little bit of a difference. Now, I don't think that BDS really were expecting to come up against the Cade here. Now, it's easily dealt with. Nade through. There's a lot of options to try and get rid of that Electric Law. It's just going to be something that slows them down in the first opening part of the round.
Things will continue to evolve here for BDS. They'll just look to quickly open up jail. Obviously will prove itself to be a bit of a jumping off point for this team to use to move themselves further into the first floor, quickly clear out any extension towards areas like ventilation. The Falcons may have tried to deploy themselves into. Looking pretty light as far as presence on that side of the map, however. It's more than likely going to be an easy clear to start things out for BDS. They actually are going to find contact with one of the members of the Falcons. J-Lad will be the first to strike here. Unfortunately, though, not going to be able to make the impact as the Aruni goes down, and no damage returned either. So it's a clean opener for BDS to set up the 5v4. A few members of the Falcons starting to roam further out, like closer to CCTV. We can see O'Kills here looking to get himself into the fray, but we'll have to be cautious now. If he goes down, the 3v5 is not going to be an easy win in any sense for the members of the Falcons. We see O'Kills still trying to push the envelope a little bit further against the clear happening in CCTV. He'll lose himself. One additional player was lost as well, and just one trade from the Falcons to account for all of that. Renshiro went down, but it's still a 4v2, a massive advantage for the members of BDS, especially considering the site that we're assaulting.
BDS really in the driver's position here, just under half of the round remaining. They've got plenty of opportunity to get those last couple of drones out there and gather a little bit more information. BDS does have a couple of drones still alive, so we can maybe rely on those to gather these last couple of locations. Shaiko playing patiently, going to be gifted with half damage there onto Joker, but the turn and burn does get the down, but it is not going to be enough. Shaiko can, of course, just juice himself back up, and he does just exactly that. Mad Skills, he's going to be there to take down at least one on some LMs, but eventually Shaiko is there to deal the damage and deal that final blow. A little bit of a scrappy engagement there. Fortunately, Shaiko was playing on the Finker, so could boost himself up as he did have an adrenal surge ready and waiting. But still, with that man count advantage, you've got a hard time seeing that go any other way than BDS.
So BDS quickly looking to tie this game up and within just arm's reach of being able to do so here now. One more round and they'll take the lead away from the Falcons. Surge ever closer to the 2-0 shutdown that they certainly want in this series. Obviously having to work a little bit harder than even they might have been expecting here, but the Falcons putting up an excellent effort in their own regard to try to hold on. Things looking a little bit bleak so far at the starting portion of the second half for their defense, but we'll look to improve upon that as we now move, I believe, towards a new site once again. Nope, they'll be back upstairs one more time to try this lockers hold, hopefully coming up with a correction after seeing more play back in the second round of the half. But remember, once again, BDS had no problem clearing this out back in the first round here. So Falcons have a lot of work to make up for.
We could be about to see 4-2 splits for the attacking half. It wouldn't be that unusual. We might be set to go into a little bit of an overtime here if Falcons are able to start chaining something together, but they're going to need to start fairly soon. Back upstairs, is it the right choice? Only time will tell. They're going to have to hold into that CCTV area once again. It looks as though the Aruni laser gates are being placed slightly differently this time. We did see a couple on those east stairs and kind of commented that they didn't really come to all that much. This time we've got at least one inside of CCTV, so that's going to do at least something to help secure that location. A little bit of early information there for Shaiko on the drone, tells him what he needs to know about what's going on behind that main wall, as that is more than likely going to be the main focus here for a nade, at least to try and deal with that Cade. Instead, just going to take it as a straight head-to-head gunfight. Shaiko can fight that all day long with the LMG, boost himself up, but it's not going to be enough. Rafali peeked the corner. He must not have got the memo.
It's just unfortunate timing on the situation for Rafal. I believe he was coming off a repel potentially as well, so no control over that. Once he had committed with the spacebar there, he goes down, and there's no sign of a trade anytime soon here from BDS. That's Falcons finally locking in that 5v4 advantage that has eluded them for most of this map here. Lems, in the meanwhile, he's going to be brought down quite low, unable to hunt down his opponent, which threw the shots at him as well. He'll be a little confused by that, but will be able to try and correct upon that as he approaches the east main staircase. Ready for the move up on top, but really doesn't have the HP to justify a fight. Stays in that same spot for too long, gives himself away to Joker, but the good news is, elsewhere on the map, Renshiro ready to take the trade as he knocks out Mad Skills. Only the first kill we've seen from BDS, however, so a lot more work needing to be done as Renshiro is going for 2 here to try and knock out Joker as well.
Lem's almost caught chasing a shadow there. He was sort of doing ring around the rosy with just nobody and got taken out from the top row. Joker looking to cause a little bit more damage here as he can hold this skinny angle for pretty much as long as he likes. Going to hit a little bit of a swing there and get one before being immediately traded. Shaiko there to dish that damage out, but Shaiko 2 will fall. Everything happening in and around those east stairs. That's where BDS is going to be now as well. He sees the better and decides, you know what, I'm not going to go through there because everybody else that has gone through there has fallen. This is very likely going to be a round that Falcons are credited with at the end of things. 3 versus 1. BDS, he might have the case, but realistically, what can he do? He's got 40 seconds to play with, and he's not going to have the best info as to where these remaining defenders are. He's got to make a lot of noise if he wants to try and transition in through to the site. Not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. Tries a little bit of a bait there with a soft breach, but he's going to have to go for the door eventually, and that is really going to telegraph his location. There's no option but to try and take this as a swing. Pops the C4 as it is thrown, and the crossfire now starts to come in. You can just see Falcons all lining up to be the one credited with that one. It's going to be O-Kills to take him out, and they get their first round on the defensive half.
Falcons quickly correcting on their mistakes that were made in the initial round of the half, and now locking it in, shutting down the play from BDS as they are stunted on the west balcony, unable to justify a push further past that point, and is constantly losing players as they attempt to do so. A few trades coming in from the east main push, but you have issues like with players such as a Lems as well, getting caught up trying to figure out where exactly they're getting shot from, not having that full intel, causing a lot of confusion and slowdown, and ultimately leaving BDS without enough players to try and contend in the 1v3 there. So Falcons lock in another win for themselves just when they were about to lose the lead also. So coming in at a very important time of this matchup. Just 2 more rounds needed for the Falcons, and they'll push ahead, taking control of the second map and sending us to our 3rd and final one to see who will close out this series. As far as BDS is concerned, they're looking to make up for things as well, but they'll be on new territory now as we're going to head to ventilation for the first time for the Falcons. So obviously they've locked in that upstairs site now.
Falcons 1 round away from a match point, 2 rounds away from taking the second map in the series. It's a very real possibility that they chain a couple together here. BDS are going to have to really start to show us something. So far, we've only really seen Shaiko pop off in terms of kills. He's 12 and 5 right now. Everyone else somewhat trailing behind a little bit. And I know that the Shaiko way is, you know, Shaiko go kill, Shaiko go win the round, but you need a little bit of something else from the rest of the gang. And maybe round 10 is when we start to see that come through a little bit more. If you look at on the flip side, very well-rounded performance so far from Falcons. We've got Mad Skills, O-Kills, and Joker all in and around 9 or 8 kills. So really keeping things nice and balanced over on that side of things. Joker immediately seeing a bit of pressure in detention. He did try to get a little bit of an impact trick out there as well as the drones start to flood in to call out his location, but he can probably waste a little bit more time here as he's going to try and stack up these goo mines in an attempt to slow down BDS.
Joker just waiting for an opportunity to strike. He's got 2 goo mines stacked on top of each other there by the supply room window here. Continue to await out a potential opportunity to strike, but BDS are being quite cautious as well, for good reason too. They've had struggles getting themselves even just to the interior hop that they would like to make initially. These Falcons are there almost every single time to contest against it, and we'll see it once more. Joker finds success on this peek out from the inside of supply windows. He'll be able to take down the first target from BDS. That's a Lems falling. BDS took some heat as well, down to about half HP. So once again, BDS struggling to get even themselves into the building, let alone get that opening kill or two, which would obviously help for them to take even more map control away.
We're seeing Adrenal Surge there, not really come to all too much as Shaiko peeks himself round into Armory, trying desperately here to make something happen. Heartbeat sensor on JLad is going to be able to call out a lot of this push from BDS as they start to occupy more and more of this top floor. But how much info are they really working with here? Shaiko just waiting for the drone to work ahead of him through beepers. Not sure if he knows that somebody's playing inside a fountain. It's not going to matter. He's going to get the heads up anyway. Takes O-Kills down. There's going to be more players dropping off now from inside of Armory and retreating onto the site. This now allows JLad to use this heartbeat scanner. He's got a C4 in pocket, and he is going to let it loose, taking Ranchero down. It's going to dish quite a significant blow there onto BDS, but fortunately, Rafal has taken the heads-up option, and he's dropped himself onto the server stack. Picks one before being traded. 3 versus 2, 30 seconds left. Joker hanging out there inside of ventilation, but Brede is there. He too has dropped the hatch, and he's going to try and nail this diffuser down. Mad Skills looking maybe for a little bit of a flank here as Shaiko tries to play cover, but the plant has been stopped for a brief moment. Brede going to reattempt here as the swing comes through. Eventually shots will land. It's a 1 versus 1. Brede gets the job done. Comes off the plant and hits him with the KO.
BDS just barely able to negotiate the win there. Unfortunately, the ignorance to the flank coming in not just once, but twice by the main door entry into ventilation nearly cost them the round. Thankfully, they're able to quickly correct upon that, and we saw a nice pickup at the final end of it here to be able to clutch things out in the 1v1 despite the very nice attempt coming in from the Falcons. But we tied up yet again, and that potential overtime that you were mentioning a few rounds back is starting to look more and more likely as these teams start to trade rounds back and forth. No longer is it the streaky game that we had going previously.
I think I willed it into existence. I think we spoke about it and then it started to happen. But why not? Let's see an overtime. We've had quick games up until this point. We can run a little bit of overtime, I think. It's going to be good to see both these two teams really going head-to-head for this one. 5-5, all things level. Not a great deal separating either side. And the winner of the next round gets the first opportunity at converting that match point. And if it's BDS, they get the opportunity to convert it into a series point as well, given that they were successful over on Oregon. Falcons on the flip side, they are really fighting hard. And to come back this strong after that Oregon performance is credit to them.
Absolutely the case. Falcons showing us that they have a lot more depth to work into their map pool than was necessarily shown us on Oregon, and certainly surprising the international community with just how closely here on border they're able to contend against BDS. Looking to steal this map away from them. Indeed, it's come down to the wire here. The team wants an outright win. They need to go for 2 rounds in a row now. Otherwise, overtime will all but certainly be happening. See a little bit of caution from BDS as well. Multiple these Claymores going to go down and try and bolster any run outs, either from East Main or that interior door to work itself out from the south side, so they don't get tripped up by the generally pretty aggressive play we've tended to see from the Falcons once they start to build up intel. That's another thing I appreciate here about the Falcons is they're not just kind of haphazardly throwing themselves at plays to get kills. It's all built off of really good intel from the defensive side of things as well. So really great strategy being deployed here to have some controlled aggression to slow down the play from BDS.
It is nice to see that controlled aggression. I do hope that's not a default camera still alive, BDS.
I believe it is.
That would be a big, big old blunder here. Okills has done everyone a service by exposing that as well. Thank you very much indeed. BDS really ought to be dealing with those default cameras a little bit better than that. Lems, he gets himself into 90. He's got a couple of options to work with here. Is he going to be prepared? It looks like he is. Okills, he might be on the defaults, but the players are already in sight, I'm afraid. Lems gets a second chance at that engagement and won't miss twice. Opening kill here going toward BDS off the back of that Lion Scan.
Bit of a rare misstep from O'Kills there, as other than this. He's very much been the rock of consistency for the Falcons that's allowed for them to stay, not only in this map, but the previous one as well, with Mad Skills being a player that sits right beside him. Things looking a lot more dominant this time, though. All these aggressive swings from the Falcons being denied, as so far it's 2-0 in the favor of BDS. Ranchero taking a little bit of heat from utility, and finally Joker going to be able to make his own impact made as he takes out Shaiko, but only the first kill traded out. Alem's able to go 1-for-1, another pickup here before he goes down as well to J-Lad, so it'll still be a +1 for BDS here as we move into the final 50 seconds of play.
Might be a +1, but it still isn't too straightforward. We've got Joker hanging around at the bottom of the metal stairs there, and we've also got Kotos hanging around at the bottom of the hatch inside of Workshop. BDS needs to use this time now to really effectively drone out and gain that information as to where these final 2 players are, because in terms of utility, sure, we've got a couple of flashes, but there's no nades really to get the job done here. You've got a little bit of hard breach. You're not likely going to need it. As we see the flashes start to flood through, as Cade, he's going to be full white.
15 seconds.
Ranchero with an important pickup here, and as well, with the flash assisting it, Kota is not going to be able to contend against the rest of the push. Much cleaner play from BDS, so they will indeed get that initial and only opportunity to close this game and the series down in regulation. Obviously not elite games, there's no extra points to be played for here, but still being able to end things here and now, certainly going to be a sigh of relief for BDS in comparison to resetting it and having to go the full distance again of 3 rounds inside of overtime.
It's going to be a good feeling, especially with the way that BDS started off this map. They didn't have a lot of fortune. It was a 2-4 split for them on their defensive phase, and things really weren't looking too hot. But since they turned on to the attack, as we kind of suspected with Border, with it being a little bit attacker favored, they have been able to chain a couple of rounds together, 4 to be exact. Falcons, they have meanwhile only managed 1. Still, there is a chance for this one to go into an overtime, but with BDS, the momentum really is at their backs now. Having already won Oregon, they are going to be looking to take this as a clean 2-0 series. This round stands in the way of that, and that being a possibility. The Falcons, of course, do have a chance and something left to say. They're going to revert back to that Legion play. Madskill's obviously feeling like he fancies a little bit more Legion in his life. Those goo mines getting out there and just slowing down some of that aggression from BDS, because let's be honest, the Lion worked well last time, and I'm a little bit more scared at that lineup. And Amaru and Nadokubi to boot, this could get dangerous.
See here now is we're actually going to get a little bit of aggression from Madskills, also pushing himself out. Keep in mind, it's a little dangerous to do in the early round in a Legion. This is an operator that gets more, is going to be able to make more of an impact as he gets further into the round, as obviously he'll be able to max out the amount of those goo mines that he can actually place down onto the ground. I believe it's 7 is the max you can throw down, so it takes about a minute and a half to build up that much of a goo mine arsenal to be able to throw it down. Either way, though, it's not going to be too negative of an effect against the Falcons' play. It does get hit once or twice there. It actually sends out a shot against Renshiro too. But other than that, things will hold themselves to be steady across the map here. As BDS taking their time with the initial clear to try and make sure they don't make any missteps. Keep in mind, again, this is their only opportunity to shut this down in regulation. Otherwise, we'll be tied up again. And it goes to OT to decide the map and potentially the series too.
You get the Lion scan coming in off the back of the Gon 6 as well. That is usually the go button that gets pressed as Alems has skyrocketed himself in through sandwich window, and he's going to start to get that plant nailed down. Okills takes Renshiro down, but the Dokubi call coming through is going to make it even more difficult for these defenders to rotate back on in, and with the plank going down, well, it's going to be very difficult indeed. Alems laid prone on side of the bomb, still manages to leap up and pick himself at 1 with the G8 before being traded. Bride there with the shotgun as well to boot, and it is all down to Okills. He's had a fantastic series so far, but is this going to be a bridge too far? Shaiko, he gets taken down. It's a trade for the final kill, Blue. Oh, so close. Fortunately, BDS still had a member alive deep in Armory. They are going to be credited with the round and the series here, going 2-0 against Falcons.
Okills just having to do too much in that situation, and even still brings it down to 1 player standing. But BDS, especially with that Amaru execute in through the pinch in the middle of lockers, beautifully shuts down the defensive lineup on that site and opens up a great plan opportunity for them to pick up the final round and end this series at the end of regulation. 7-5 is going to be the final score here as BDS takes control 2-1, or rather 2-0, I should say, of this series for themselves. That'll be the second 2-0 for the day as well. We saw Wild take one a little bit earlier as they move further into their group as well.
Much closer, 2-0 this time though, and you don't mind seeing it like that. A border that's pretty much going all the way. Yeah, surely Oregon was a little bit one-sided there, but it was great to see the way that Falcons bounced back. They didn't let that Oregon performance get too far into their heads for how they played on border. And BDS, they were pushed there. Let's be honest, it wasn't all too easy for them. It didn't come all too naturally, but they got the job done in the end.
Definitely don't think this is the last we're going to see from the Falcons. Obviously, they'll have more matches to be played in the lower bracket too, but I have good confidence we can see this team come back, contend against some of the others that we saw, maybe even surprise and knock a few of them out as well. They've got that home field advantage, and they're going to be looking to use it, as you guys probably heard the crowd a few times over the course of the series. Some major improvements to their own gameplay that can be very easily noted between maps 1 and 2 also, so I've got good confidence that we'll see a little bit more out of the Falcons here before their run potentially ends at this tournament. Obviously going to have to improve some things though to make that championship run, but overall, not the worst start for the Falcons here today.
We didn't know what we were going to expect. Let's be honest. You know, we've not been able to see these guys play. We don't know the quality or the standard that they play up to, and it was nice to see that. You know, throw them up against BDS first, that's a pretty big undertaking, realistically. So it was nice to see how they stacked up, and who knows, maybe they give Liquid a good game.
All right, that'll do it for the two of us for the day, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go back down to the stage as we have another interview with our winners.
Welcome back to the main stage. I am joined by Elms from BDS. Congratulations. One match down, one victory. If I'm being very honest, you looked extremely comfortable throughout that match. But can you tell us, and can you tell the viewers at home, what it was like competing here on the main stage?
To be honest, it feels very great. Falcons is a very great team. It's first time they played internationally, and they are playing very, very good. So yeah, it was like amazing.
في البداية حبينا نسأل اللاعب إلمز من فريق BDS عن تواجده معنا في المسرح وإيش رأيه في الأجواء وفي الجمهور وفي الأضواء وفي كل البريشر اللي هم موجودين فيه، مع إنه ما وضح البريشر أبدا في المباراة. فكان السؤال على إنه هل الشيء هذا كان متواجد ولا لا، لكن جوابه كان إنه بالعكس فريق فالكونز يعني حتى مواجهتنا لهم كانت جدا جميلة، تواجدنا في المسرح كان جدا جميل، وأيضا فريق فالكونز مع إنه لأول مرة كانوا يلعبون على مسرح عالمي إلا إنه أدائهم كان جدا ممتاز في المباراة.
So I guess this is more of like a regional question, but also touching on the fact that we've just mentioned Falcons as well. A lot of the casters were wondering, what's the play style like, you know, going up against a team from that region that you haven't played before internationally? Was it a completely different play style you were going up against, or were you ready for what they were bringing?
To be honest, I watched them play a lot. I know they are a very aggressive team. So before the match, we were like, okay guys, let's play slow. Wait for them to pick and to be aggressive. And when we need to pick them, we just need to be confident and like enter their game and play aggressive as well. That's it.
فكثير من الكاسترز اللي موجودين معنا كانوا يسألون سؤال إنه هل تواجد فريق من الشرق الأوسط معنا في البطولة، هل البلاي ستايل حقهم مختلف عن البلاي ستايل اللي واجهوه فريق BDS من كل المباريات الثانية ومن كل البطولات الثانية اللي شاركوا فيها؟ فكان جوابهم إنه فعلا كان في اختلاف وما كنا متأكدين كيف طريقة اللعب حقهم، وكنا منتظرين في بداية الجيم الأول بالذات إنهم خلينا نلعب سلو، ما نبي نلعب اجريسيف، وخليهم هم يسوون علينا بيك، وقت ما احنا نحتاج نسوي بيك عليهم نقدر نسوي، بس اللعب يكون بسلو بالبداية، ونجحت معهم الطريقة زي ما شفنا.
So next up, you have an upper bracket final match, and it will either be against MIBR or TSM. I just wanted to quickly ask you if you have a preference of which team you go up against, and maybe you could give us a reason why.
To be honest, we don't have preferences. I would say maybe TSM for a bit of a revenge, but that's it.
في المباراة القادمة الفريق BDS احتمال انهم يواجهون يا فريق MIBR او فريق TSM، فحبينا نسأله ايش الفريق اللي يفضل انه يواجهه، فقال احنا ودنا صراحة ما عندنا يعني تفضيل معين على الفريق اللي بنواجهه، لكن بنفس الوقت فريق TSM ودنا نواجهه عشان نقدر ننتقم منهم من البطولات الماضية حقتنا، فما ندري ايش اللي ممكن يصير، بس خلينا نشوف ايش اللي ممكن يطلع مع فريق BDS.
Elms, congratulations on the win. Thank you so much for joining us in your post-match interview. Everyone in the Gamers8 arena, please give it up one more time for BDS. Okay, we're going to be throwing over to a very short break, but do not worry, we got another round for you coming up. It's going to be our first upper bracket final from the group stage.
يعطيكم العافية أعزائنا المشاهدين والحضور. راح ناخذ الآن فاصل بسيط ونرجع لكم على طول في المباراة الثالثة معنا، وبنشوف مين الفريق اللي بيقدر يتقدم في البلاي أوفز ومين اللي بيقدر إنه يوصلها في النهاية، فلا تبعدون، كلها دقائق وراجعين لكم.